The cold hum of the Galactic Fleet's command center echoed through the air, the light from the holoscreens casting an eerie glow on the faces of its elite warriors. They stood in a semicircle around the briefing table, confident in their superiority. The mission ahead, disrupting enemy formations in a dense asteroid field, had brought the best of them together. And yet, there was an unspoken disdain in the room as the only human present was introduced. Sergeant John Stone stood apart from the group, silent and observant. Clad in a simple, worn uniform, his demeanor contrasted starkly with the heavily armored galactic warriors who surrounded him. They had mocked his presence from the moment they saw him, his ancient rifle slung over his shoulder like a relic of a forgotten era. "Physical bullets," one of the warriors sneered, a towering figure with glowing cybernetic eyes. "Do you still use rocks and sticks on Earth too?" Laughter followed, but Stone remained unmoved, his gaze steady on the mission briefing. The asteroid field stretched before them in holographic form, jagged rocks shifting and spinning in a chaotic dance. It was the perfect place for stealth operations, but also a graveyard for those who underestimated its dangers. Energy weapons, the galactic warrior's pride, would struggle to maintain accuracy in such unstable terrain, but no one was willing to admit it. Commander Trask, a grizzled veteran of the Galactic Fleet, slammed his fist on the table, silencing the laughter. "Enough. This is no time for arrogance. We've lost too many good soldiers to this enemy. We'll need every asset at our disposal, even if that means relying on Earth's unconventional methods." The sneers lingered, but the briefing continued. The enemy was well hidden, using the asteroid field as cover. Precision was key, and though the galactic warriors prided themselves on their long-range targeting systems, they all knew deep down that the asteroids interfered with their tech. It was Stone's specialty that had brought him here, his uncanny ability to eliminate targets in impossible conditions. Yet few believed in him. As the mission briefing concluded, the warriors began to prepare, their sleek, energy-based weapons shimmering in the low light. Stone, however, stayed behind, his hands resting on his ancient rifle. It was a weapon with a history, customized and precise, with physical bullets instead of energy beams. The galactic warriors couldn't fathom how such a thing could be useful in this day and age. "Is that really what you're bringing?" a young warrior, his face half covered in a breathing mask, asked as he approached Stone. "A toy from your grandfather's attic?" Stone finally spoke, his voice calm and low. "It'll get the job done." The young warrior scoffed, shaking his head as he walked away. But Stone knew what they didn't. Energy weapons were impressive in open space, in controlled environments. In the chaos of an asteroid field, they were more liability than asset. He had been through this before. As a sniper, he thrived in the kind of environment that others feared. His rifle, old as it seemed, was reliable in ways the advanced technology couldn't match. The mission began, and the team launched into the asteroid field in sleek, silent ships. The Galactics took point, their targeting systems scanning the debris for any signs of enemy ships. But the asteroids were dense, creating blind spots everywhere. Stone moved quietly, positioning himself at the back, his rifle slung across his back like a forgotten piece of junk to the others. Minutes passed in tense silence. The first sign of trouble came quickly. An enemy ship darted out from behind an asteroid, its sleek form nearly invisible until it fired. The galactic warriors reacted, their energy weapons lighting up the space with blinding beams. But the ship evaded, using the asteroid field as cover. The warriors cursed as their systems struggled to keep a lock on the enemy. "This is useless," one of them barked over the comms. "We're sitting ducks here." Stone didn't respond. Instead, he positioned himself on a nearby asteroid, adjusting the scope of his rifle. He felt the familiar weight of the weapon in his hands, the cool metal steady against his skin. He aimed, scanning the field, his breathing slowing as his focus sharpened. The enemy ship darted again, moving swiftly between two large asteroids. In one smooth motion, Stone fired. A single bullet, physical, not energy-based, cut through the vacuum of space, weaving through the field as if guided by some invisible force. The enemy ship exploded in a burst of light, debris scattering through the field. The comms went silent. The Galactic warriors were stunned. One shot from an ancient rifle had taken down a target their advanced systems couldn't even lock onto. How? The young warrior from earlier stammered. How did you do that? Stone didn't answer. He simply moved to another position, already lining up his next shot. As the mission continued, the Galactics became increasingly aware of their dependence on Stone. Every time the enemy appeared, it was Stone's bullet that ended the threat. He moved like a ghost, unseen and unheard, his shots precise and devastating. The warriors, for all their bravado, were left scrambling to keep up, their advanced tech useless in the face of Stone's mastery. But something darker lurked in the asteroid field. An elite enemy squadron had appeared on the scanners, moving with deadly precision. They weren't like the others. These ships were faster, more heavily armed, and far more dangerous. The Galactic warriors braced for the worst, their confidence shaken. As the elite squadron closed in, the warriors prepared for a desperate battle. Stone remained silent, positioning himself once more. His calm in the face of overwhelming odds was unnerving, and the warriors couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. Then, as the enemy's ships prepared to fire, Stone did something no one expected. He tapped into his visor, his fingers flying across the interface. In an instant, the Galactic warriors' targeting systems flickered, then went dark. Panic erupted as they realized their systems had been hacked. Stone, what are you? Before anyone could finish, the elite squadron fired. The asteroid field exploded into chaos. And Stone disappeared. Stone's sudden disappearance sent a wave of panic through the Galactic warriors. Their targeting systems flickered with static, plunging them into a vulnerable darkness. The enemy squadron, fast and lethal, closed in, their ships weaving through the asteroid field with precision. The warriors, now blind without their technology, cursed under their breath. Stone! Where the hell are you? Barked Commander Trask, his voice a mix of frustration and fear. But there was no response. Stone had vanished, leaving the warriors exposed and disoriented. Their reliance on advanced tech had always been a point of pride, but now, without it, they felt stripped of their power. The enemy's ships were moving closer, their weapons primed to strike. One of the younger warriors, trembling, muttered, "We're sitting ducks out here." Before anyone could react, the first shot came from the enemy. An asteroid nearby erupted in a shower of debris, sending the warriors into a scramble. They fired blindly, hoping for a miracle, but their energy blasts only hit the surrounding rocks, creating more chaos. Trask's face was twisted in anger. "Get it together! We're not going down without a fight!" But deep down, they all knew the truth. Without their systems, without their tech, they were helpless. And Stone, the one man who had proven capable in this madness, was gone. Another explosion rocked the field, closer this time. The enemy was toying with them, drawing out the inevitable. Each passing second increased the tension, and the once confident warriors began to realize just how dependent they were on their equipment. Their boasts of superiority now felt hollow, even to themselves. And then, out of the silence, a single shot rang out. The sound was unmistakable. A physical bullet, cutting through space with deadly precision. An enemy ship exploded in the distance, its remains spiraling out of control. Trask's eyes widened. That was Stone. Another shot. Another enemy ship down. The warriors turned their heads, searching for any sign of their elusive sniper, but there was nothing, just the swirling chaos of the asteroid field. "Where is he?" a warrior muttered, his voice filled with awe and fear. Stone was out there, somewhere, but no one could see him. His movements were ghost-like, his presence barely detectable. And yet, with each shot, he was single-handedly dismantling the enemy's elite squadron. The warriors, so accustomed to tracking their targets through advanced systems, couldn't comprehend how Stone was doing it without any of their technology. For Stone, this was familiar territory. The asteroid field, with its unpredictable shifts and its pockets of shadow, was a sniper's dream. He moved like a wraith, blending into the environment, using every rock, every crevice to his advantage. His rifle, silent but deadly, became an extension of himself. Each shot was carefully calculated, each target marked in his mind long before he ever pulled the trigger. He didn't need their systems. He never had. Back on the command ship, Trask stared at the holoscreens in disbelief. How is he doing that? There's no way. One of the senior warriors, a battle-hardened veteran named Varric, spoke quietly, his voice tinged with respect. He's using the old ways. No tech, just instinct. That's why they call him the Ghost. But Trask was growing impatient. Instinct won't save us forever. We need those targeting systems back online. Varric didn't respond. He knew better. In this environment, Stone's methods were their best hope. The warriors, for all their strength and advanced weaponry, were outmatched here. It was only Stone's expertise keeping them alive. The enemy, however, was not done. The last few ships in the squadron adapted, spreading out and using the asteroid field as cover. Their strategy had changed. They were now hunting Stone, realizing that he was the true threat. The Galactic warriors, forgotten for the moment, watched helplessly as the battle between Stone and the enemy intensified. Stone's breath was calm, measured. He had already calculated the positions of the remaining enemy ships. They thought they could outmaneuver him, but he knew the field better than they ever could. He lined up his next shot, adjusting for the asteroid's rotation, and fired. Another ship down. But then, something shifted. The enemy had grown desperate. One of the remaining ships detonated an EMP charge, sending a pulse through the field. The warrior's systems, already unstable, went completely dead. Stone's visor flickered, and for the first time, his vision was compromised. He blinked, steadying himself, but the damage was done. His targeting systems had been knocked offline, leaving him without the enhancements that even he had relied on. Now, it was truly down to instinct. The enemy ship moved in quickly, sensing an opportunity. They fired, and for a moment Stone felt the heat of the blast as it grazed the asteroid where he had taken cover. He rolled to the side, his body pressed against the cold rock. His heartbeat was steady, his mind focused. Another shot rang out, this one closer. Stone knew he had seconds to act. He adjusted his rifle manually, the weight of the old weapon suddenly heavier in his hands. He couldn't miss. Not now. He fired. The bullet hit its mark, the enemy ship erupting in a burst of fire. But as the debris cleared, Stone's visor flickered again, and this time, a warning flashed across his screen. Another ship. A larger one, hidden behind the debris, had been waiting. It hadn't fired yet, but it was locked onto his position. Stone narrowed his eyes, calculating. His rifle was empty, and the ship was closing in fast. Trask's voice crackled over the comms, barely audible. "Stone, we're losing." But Stone wasn't listening. His focus was entirely on the enemy ship now barreling toward him, its weapons primed. Stone reached for his sidearm, but his hand froze. His visor, still glitching, displayed something else. A faint signature, barely detectable, moving in the opposite direction. It wasn't an enemy. It was something, or someone, else. And they were heading straight for the Galactic warriors. The enemy ship loomed closer, its weapons trained on Stone's position. The faint hum of its engines vibrated through the asteroid field as it closed the distance, ready to finish what the others had failed to accomplish. Stone, pressed against the rough surface of the asteroid, his heart steady, knew that the next few seconds would decide everything. He kept his gaze locked on the ship, his mind calculating. His rifle was spent, and his sidearm wouldn't penetrate the ship's armor. But the signal he had seen moments earlier, the faint blip moving toward the Galactic warriors, tugged at his focus. Was it another enemy? Or something else? There was no time to find out. Trask's voice cracked again over the comms, desperation cutting through the static. "Stone! Where are you? We need..." Stone muted the comms. There was no room for distraction. The enemy ship, a sleek predator in the void, fired a barrage of plasma rounds. They sizzled through the space between asteroids, leaving scorched trails in their wake. Stone rolled to the side just as the rock he had been crouching behind erupted into fragments, sending shards of debris spinning around him. He landed on his feet, already moving, scanning his surroundings for cover. His mind was a blur of calculations, his sniper instincts fully engaged. Every movement, every step had to be precise. The enemy ship swept around for another pass, its targeting systems zeroing in on his location. But Stone wasn't going to wait for it to come to him. In one fluid motion, he grabbed a piece of asteroid debris, jagged, heavy, and hurled it toward a nearby cluster of rocks. The collision sent a shower of smaller fragments flying in every direction, creating a cloud of debris that masked his position. The enemy ship hesitated, its sensors confused by the sudden chaos. Stone took advantage of the momentary distraction. He sprinted, his footsteps silent in the vacuum, making his way toward the nearest large asteroid. He had only seconds before the enemy adjusted and resumed its hunt. The tension in the air was palpable, every second a razor's edge between survival and death. Stone reached the cover of the asteroid just as the enemy ship fired again, its plasma rounds slicing through the cloud of debris, narrowly missing him. He pressed his back against the rock, his breathing calm but controlled. He needed a plan. The ship was too fast, its armor too strong for his sidearm. And yet Stone knew the ship's weakness, its over-reliance on targeting systems. Without a clear lock, it would struggle to pinpoint him. But that wasn't enough. He needed more. That's when he saw it. The blip on his visor, the faint signal that had appeared earlier, had grown stronger. It wasn't just moving toward the warriors, it was moving with purpose. Fast. And now, Stone could see it clearly. A ship. But not an enemy one. It was smaller, older, and far less sophisticated than the Galactic or enemy vessels. But it was fast, blindingly fast. The ship wove through the asteroid field with an agility that shouldn't have been possible, avoiding the plasma fire from the enemy as if it knew every rock, every movement in advance. Stone's eyes narrowed. Who was piloting that? The mysterious ship darted between asteroids, closing in on the Galactic warrior's position. The enemy ship, now aware of the new arrival, turned its attention away from Stone and toward the unexpected intruder. Plasma rounds fired, but the smaller ship evaded them with ease, dancing through the field like a ghost. Stone watched, intrigued. Whoever was piloting that ship was no amateur. He had to move. Stone unmuted his comms, his voice cutting through the static. "Trass. You've got a new player in the field. Not one of ours. Keep your heads down." The commander's response came after a beat of hesitation. "What? Who?" "No time. Just stay low." Stone cut the comms again, his attention shifting back to the enemy ship. It was now fully engaged with the mysterious vessel, its plasma rounds firing in rapid succession, trying to land a hit. But the smaller ship was too quick, weaving in and out of cover, always one step ahead. And then, without warning, the mysterious ship turned sharply, heading straight for the enemy vessel. Stone's breath caught. Was it going for a direct attack? The enemy ship fired, but the smaller vessel didn't falter. It accelerated, closing the gap in seconds. Just before impact, it released a flurry of decoys, small, metallic objects that scattered in every direction. The enemy ship's sensors went wild, confused by the sudden influx of targets. That's when Stone saw it. The real play. The smaller ship hadn't been aiming for a direct hit. It had dropped something small but significant, right on top of the enemy ship's hull. A split second later, the object detonated. The explosion was contained, precise. A pulse of energy radiated from the enemy ship's core, and its systems immediately went dark. The ship, crippled, drifted aimlessly through the asteroid field, its weapons silent, its engines dead. Stone exhaled, watching as the smaller ship banked hard, pulling away from the debris and heading toward the Galactic warriors. The comms crackled again, Trass's voice barely hiding his shock. "What just happened?" But Stone already knew the answer, even before the words left his mouth. The blip on his visor. The ship's impossible maneuvers. The precise, calculated strike. It was another sniper. And they were on his side. Stone's mind raced. This changed everything. Whoever this pilot was, they were more than just a skilled combatant. They were an ally, and a dangerous one at that. But why hadn't they revealed themselves sooner? What was their agenda? The smaller ship hovered near the Galactic warriors now, as if waiting for something. Stone's visor flickered again, this time displaying a message. A single line of text, encrypted but unmistakable. Not all ghosts work alone. Stone felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Before he could react, the mysterious ship powered up again and vanished into the asteroid field, leaving nothing but questions in its wake. Stone stood there, his eyes scanning the empty space where the ship had disappeared. His mind was racing with possibilities, but one thing was certain. He wasn't the only ghost in this fight anymore. And whoever the new player was, they were just getting started. Stone crouched behind a jagged asteroid, his breathing slow and controlled. The field was quiet now, the last of the enemy's ships reduced to debris, drifting through space. But the silence was unnerving. The mysterious sniper, his supposed ally, had vanished without a trace, leaving Stone with more questions than answers. Who was this ghost, and why had they chosen to intervene at such a critical moment? Before he could dwell on it further, the comms crackled to life. "Stone, report," Commander Trask demanded, his tone sharp but shaken. Stone hesitated for a moment, debating how much to reveal. "Enemy ships neutralized. One unknown player. They took out the lead vessel." There was a pause, then Trask's voice came through again, more controlled. "Unknown player? You saying someone else was out there?" "Affirmative," Stone replied. "Skilled pilot. They knew the field better than anyone. They're gone now." Trask cursed under his breath. "Damn it. I don't like surprises. Get back here, Stone. We need to regroup. We've still got a mission to finish." Stone stood, his eyes scanning the vast asteroid field one last time. Nothing. Whoever the mysterious sniper was, they had vanished as quickly as they had appeared. And yet something about their precision felt unsettlingly familiar. Stone couldn't shake the feeling that he'd seen this kind of skill before. As he made his way back to the Galactic command post, his mind wandered back to his training. Earth's snipers had always been an anomaly in the galaxy, relying on instinct, patience, and a deep understanding of their environment, while the rest of the galaxy leaned on technology. It was a lonely path, one that required isolation and focus. But for someone else to have mastered it to this degree? It felt like an echo of his own journey, as if he were facing a reflection of himself. When Stone arrived at the command post, the mood was tense. The Galactic warriors were regrouping, their earlier bravado replaced with quiet frustration. Their systems were still down, leaving them vulnerable. The sleek, advanced tech they prided themselves on had been rendered useless, and the realization that they had been outmatched by a lone sniper had left a bitter taste in the air. Commander Trask stood at the center of the room, his face drawn with exhaustion. "Stone," he greeted with a nod, though his expression was more one of frustration than gratitude. "We've got bigger problems." Stone raised an eyebrow. "Bigger than the enemy squadron we just took out?" Trask motioned to a holomap, glitching slightly from the recent EMP blast. "We intercepted a transmission before our systems went down. The enemy wasn't just after our fleet. They're planning a full-scale invasion of the nearby star system. If they take it, they'll have a foothold to launch strikes across half the galaxy." Stone studied the map. The star system in question wasn't far, 3 jumps, maybe 4. But it was a critical point, a hub of trade routes and military outposts. If the enemy took it, they could cripple the Galactic force's ability to respond to future threats. "How long do we have?" Stone asked, his mind already racing through possibilities. "Not long," Trask admitted. "Their invasion fleet is already en route. We need to get our systems back online, but even then, we'll be outgunned." Stone's eyes narrowed. You're asking for a miracle. Trask met his gaze. I'm asking for survival. The weight of the situation hung in the air. The Galactic fleet was crippled, their systems down, and even if they managed to get everything running again, they would still be at a disadvantage. Stone, however, knew that the battlefield wasn't just about weapons and ships. It was about precision, timing, and unpredictability. I need to go after the sniper, Stone said, his voice calm but firm. Trask blinked, caught off guard. What? We need you here. You're our best shot at. That sniper saved us back there, Stone interrupted. Whoever they are, they've got the skills we need. If we want any chance at stopping this invasion, we need them on our side. Trask frowned, clearly torn between his reluctance to trust an unknown player and the logic of Stone's argument. And how exactly do you plan on finding them? I've got a hunch, Stone said simply. They didn't vanish without a trace. Trask exhaled, rubbing his temples. You've got 1 hour, Stone. 1 hour to track down this sniper and convince them to help us. After that, we're moving, with or without you. Stone nodded, already heading for the door. His rifle was slung across his back, the weight familiar, almost comforting. He knew the asteroid field better than anyone now, and if the sniper was still out there, he'd find them. The field was quieter than before, the debris from the battle slowly drifting through space like forgotten memories. Stone moved silently, his eyes scanning the rocks and shadows for any sign of movement. He replayed the earlier encounter in his mind, the way the mysterious sniper had navigated the field, the precision of their shots. They had been fast, almost too fast, as if they were anticipating every move before it happened. He moved deeper into the field, his senses on high alert. The silence was unnerving, but Stone had learned long ago that silence often hid the greatest dangers. And then, he saw it, just a flicker, barely noticeable, but unmistakable to someone trained like him. A ship. Tucked behind a cluster of asteroids, its engines powered down, blending into the shadows. Stone's heart rate remained steady as he approached. He kept his movements deliberate, careful not to make any sudden noise. Whoever was inside that ship had already proven themselves capable of outthinking the enemy, and possibly him. He needed to tread lightly. He reached the ship, his rifle raised as he moved closer to the cockpit. The glass was dark, preventing him from seeing inside. Stone took a deep breath, then knocked lightly on the hull. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, the cockpit door hissed open. Stone stepped back, his rifle ready, but what he saw next made him pause. A woman stepped out, her expression calm and composed. She was dressed in simple, functional gear, her eyes sharp and focused. But it wasn't her appearance that caught Stone off guard, it was the way she carried herself, the confidence in her stance, the ease with which she regarded him. She was like him. "You're the ghost, aren't you?" she said, her voice low but steady. Stone didn't lower his rifle. "And you're not just any sniper." She smiled faintly, the corners of her mouth barely twitching. "I didn't think I was the only one left." Before Stone could respond, her smile faded, and she nodded toward the horizon. "We've got company." Stone turned, his visor flickering with a warning. More ships were approaching, fast. But this time, they weren't just enemy vessels. They were reinforcements. And they weren't friendly.